What happens when a beloved British acting legend walks onto a morning talk show expecting warmth, and instead walks straight into an ambush? In just 31 seconds, a simple question about Julie Walters' newest passion project would unravel into one of the most uncomfortable exchanges daytime television has ever seen, revealing a side of Lorraine Kelly that viewers had never witnessed. Before the morning began like any other, studio lights blazing, audience settled, Julie Walters stepping onto the set with that familiar, beloved smile, the kind that makes Britain feel a little brighter just by existing. She'd come to talk about her new film, a project she'd nurtured for years. And as she took her seat on the couch, greeting Lorraine and the panel with genuine warmth, everything looked perfectly pleasant. Beside Lorraine sat Marcus, the entertainment correspondent who kept things breezy, and Sarah, the lifestyle expert whose cheerfulness was basically her brand. Both looked thrilled to have Julie there. "Julie, wonderful to have you," Lorraine began, though her smile stopped somewhere short of her eyes. "Now, this new film of yours? I have to say, when I first heard about it, I thought, really? Another period drama? Haven't we seen enough of those?" The room froze. Marcus shifted. Sarah blinked. Julie's smile faltered just briefly before she gathered herself. "I think every story has something unique to offer," Julie said with practiced grace. "This one explores themes I found deeply move." Yes, Lorraine cut in, flicking her hand dismissively. "But don't you think at this point in your career you should be choosing projects that are more, I don't know, relevant? Who even cares about costume dramas anymore?" Marcus jumped in carefully. "I actually think the film looks quite compelling. I'm talking to Julie, Marcus." Lorraine didn't even glance at him. Julie inhaled slowly, the first crack in her composure showing. "I respect your opinion, Lorraine," she said, voice calm but carrying new weight. "But I chose this role because the story matters. It's about real women facing real struggles. Relevance doesn't disappear because a story is set in the past." Trying desperately to lighten the mood, Sarah chimed in. "I think what Julie is saying is that good storytelling transcends time periods." "The emotional core, Sarah, please." Lorraine sliced through her sentence like a blade. "I'm trying to have a conversation here." She leaned closer to Julie. "What I'm really asking is whether you're just playing it safe. You've been in this industry for decades, and yet you keep choosing the same sorts of roles. Where's the edge? Where's the risk?" The audience was silent. You could feel the air contracting around them. Julie's expression hardened. "I've taken plenty of risks," she replied, voice low but firm. "I've played characters that challenged me emotionally, psychologically, physically. A period setting doesn't make a performance easy." "Oh, come off it," Lorraine scoffed, on live television. "Putting on a corset and doing an accent is challenging. Please." "I've seen your work, Julie. You could do those roles in your sleep." Marcus looked horrified. "Lorraine, I don't think that's fair. Julie has won awards. She's one of the most respected." "Marcus, if I want your input, I'll ask for it." He fell silent, staring down at his notes. Julie straightened, all warmth gone. "I'm not sure what you're trying to achieve, Lorraine, but I came on this show in good faith. To discuss a film I'm proud of, not to be attacked." "Attacked?" Lorraine laughed cold, dismissive. "Oh, don't be dramatic. I'm asking questions. Isn't that what journalists do? Or are you so used to people fawning over you that you can't handle honest critique?" "Honest critique is one thing," Julie replied, voice rising. "What you're doing is something else. You're being dismissive. You're being rude to your own panel. And you're being disrespectful to me." Sarah tried again, grasping at anything that might restore the room's balance. "Maybe we could talk about the director Julie worked with." There's a really interesting story about how the project came together, Sarah. Lorraine said through clenched teeth for the last time. I am conducting this interview. And if you can't sit quietly, you're welcome to leave the set. Sarah's face drained of color. Marcus looked like he wished the floor would open beneath him. And Julie, Lorraine said, turning back to the legend beside her. Julie had reached her limit. You know what, Lorraine? She said, rising from the couch with quiet finality. I don't think I need to sit here and listen to this. I've been in this industry long enough to recognize when someone's manufacturing drama for ratings. That's exactly what you're doing. Sit down. Julie, Lorraine snapped, her voice slicing through the air. We're not finished. Oh, I think we are, Julie replied, tone controlled and resolute. I came here expecting a professional conversation about my work. Instead, you've spent this entire segment belittling me, shutting down your colleagues, and creating a hostile environment. I won't be part of it. Lorraine's cheeks flushed a furious red. How dare you walk off my show? Do you know how many actors would kill to sit in that seat? You should be grateful I even invited you. The audience gasped. Marcus and Sarah stared at Lorraine as if seeing her for the first time. Grateful. Julie turned back slowly, astonished. Lorraine, I've been working in this industry since before you had a show. I don't need to be grateful for the privilege of being insulted on daytime television. What I do need is basic respects, something I clearly won't get here. Oh, here we go. Lorraine rolled her eyes. The big star can't handle a tough interview. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're all the same you, expect to be worshipped, but the second someone asks a real question, you crumble. Marcus finally spoke, voice trembling but firm. Lorraine, that's not what happened. You've been antagonistic since the first question. Julie has been nothing but professional, and you're fired, Lorraine cut in, icily. She didn't even look at him. Get off my set. The studio erupted into stunned murmurs. Sarah slapped a hand over her mouth. Marcus sat frozen, as if the words hadn't fully reached him. Excuse me? Marcus whispered. You heard me, Lorraine said. You're fired. I won't have panelists undermining me. Security will show you out. Julie stared at her in disbelief. This is unbelievable. You're firing him because he stood up to your bullying. It's my show, Lorraine barked, her voice climbing in pitch. My name is on it. And right now, I want you to sit back down and finish this interview, or I'll make sure everyone hears that. Julie Walters is impossible to work with. That's a threat. Julie said softly. It's not a threat, Lorraine hissed. It's a promise. You think you're untouchable because you've been in a few films? I have a platform, Julie. I can destroy your reputation with a few well-placed comments. Sarah stood suddenly, trembling but resolute. Lorraine, stop. This is too far. Julie is our guest. She deserves respect. We all do. Lorraine rounded on her like a storm. Are you questioning me too? Do you want to join Marcus in the unemployment line? If that's what it takes to keep my integrity, Sarah said, steadier now, then yes. What you're doing is cruel, Lorraine. Cruel and deeply unprofessional. Julie nodded toward Sarah with genuine gratitude. Thank you. At least someone here remembers what decency looks like. Don't you dare act like you're the victim, Lorraine snarled, standing now herself. You came in here with an attitude. You were defensive from the start. Defensive. Julie's voice rose in disbelief. You insulted my work in the first minute. You dismissed everything I said. You belittled your own team. The only person with an attitude problem here is you. Get out. Lorraine pointed toward the exit, her hand shaking. Get out of my studio now. I was already leaving, Julie said coolly. She took a breath, steady and composed. And let me be very clear. I'm not walking out because of tough questions. I've done hundreds of interviews. I welcome challenge. What I don't tolerate is being treated like I'm worthless, or watching you bully your staff and then threaten me when I call it out. You're making a huge mistake, Lorraine warned, her voice low and venomous. You have no idea how much damage I can do. Julie let out a short, sad laugh. My dear, my career will be just fine. I have decades of work behind me that I'm proud of. What you should be worried about is your own reputation, because everyone watching this just saw the real you. And it's not pretty. The applause started softly, one person, then two, then a small wave building into something undeniable. People were clapping for Julie, cheering for her. Lorraine's face darkened to an alarming shade of crimson. Stop that! She shouted at the crowd. Stop clapping right now. This is my show. But nobody stopped. They kept clapping, and Julie Walters walked off the set head high, dignity intact as the studio shook with the sound of an audience standing up to a bully. But they didn't stop. If anything, more hands joined in. The applause grew louder, more united, more defiant. Marcus fired or not lifted his hands and clapped, too. Sarah was crying openly now, tears streaking down her cheeks. But she was clapping as well, fiercely, proudly. This is mutiny, Lorraine hissed, her voice cracking. I won't stand for this. Then maybe you should sit down, Julie said, calm as still water, and think about how you got here. Think about how you treated everyone in this room. Think about whether this is really the person you want to be. I don't need life lessons from you, Lorraine spat. You're nothing special, Julie Walters. Just another actor who got lucky. The applause cut off instantly. The silence that followed was crushing. You could almost hear the oxygen leaving the room. Julie stared at her for a long, heartbreaking moment. When she finally spoke, her voice wasn't angry, was tired, disappointed. You know what's sad, Lorraine? I used to watch your show. I used to think you were warm, genuine. I told my agent I was excited to come on, 'cause I thought we'd have a lovely conversation. She shook her head. But this isn't journalism, and it certainly isn't entertainment. This is just sad. Get out, Lorraine whispered, but the bite was gone. Her voice sounded thin, like someone realizing too late that they had gone too far. Just get out. Julie turned and walked toward the exit, her posture straight, her dignity untouched. Sarah stood immediately and followed, unable to stay a moment longer. Marcus gathered his scattered notes and rose to join them, forming an unexpected trio as they headed for the door. Come back here. Lorraine's voice cracked across the studio. They didn't turn around. I said come back. We're not done. The cameras are still rolling. A producer rushed in from the wings, frantically whispering to her, probably urging her to cut to commercial, but Lorraine shoved him aside. No, she barked. We're going to finish this show. Bring out the next guest. There was no next guest. The entire second half of the program had been built around Julie. Chaos swallowed the studio. Crew members scrambled. Floor managers gestured wildly. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether they were witnessing a broadcast disaster or the final collapse of a host unraveling in real time. At the doorway, Julie paused. Just once, she turned back toward the set. Lorraine stood alone among empty chairs where her panelists had been, facing an audience that no longer belonged to her. I hope it was worth it. Julie called across the studio. Whatever you were trying to prove, I hope it was worth it. Lorraine opened her mouth, but no sound came. For the first time all morning, she had nothing, no retort, no insult, no command. Julie walked out, leaving the sound of frantic crisis management behind her. Producers shouting, Crew members scrambling. Audience members buzzing as they stood, whispering to one another, and Lorraine screaming at someone. No one to fix this. But it was far too late. What happened had gone out live. Thousands had seen it unfold, moment by moment. A beloved actress arriving for a simple interview, and being met with hostility. A host abusing her power. A panelist fired on air for daring to speak up. They had seen everything in the hallway. Sarah and Marcus were waiting shaken, pale, but standing tall. "Are you all right?" Sarah asked gently, touching Julie's arm. "I'm fine," Julie said softly. "I'm sorry you both got caught in that." "Don't apologize," Marcus said firmly. "We should be thanking you." Someone had to stand up to her. She's been getting worse for months. Everyone's too afraid to say it. "I'm not afraid," Julie replied simply. "I'm too old and too tired to tolerate behavior like that. Life's too short." Sarah wiped her eyes. "And what she said about your work?" "About you? None of it was true. You're brilliant, Julie. Everyone knows that." Julie pulled her into a warm, grateful hug. "Thank you, love. That means a lot." They stood together for a moment, three people united by something they never expected to share. None of them knew what would happen next, but they knew they had done the right thing. Back in the studio, Lorraine Kelly was still trying desperately to regain control of the show. But the damage had already settled like a shadow. The audience had seen what they'd seen. The crew had seen it. And someone, somewhere, was already clipping the footage, clips that would circulate, clips that would go viral, clips that would redefine careers. Julie Walters had walked onto that set as a guest. She left as something else entirely. A symbol of grace under pressure, of standing up to cruelty, of refusing to be diminished by someone else's insecurity. She had shown everyone that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away with your head held high. And Lorraine Kelly, she was left standing alone in her studio, surrounded by the wreckage of a broadcast that had gone catastrophically wrong. All because she chose pettiness over professionalism, cruelty over kindness. The cameras finally stopped. The audience was ushered out. The lights dimmed, but the fallout was only just beginning. But what had happened would not be forgotten. It would become one of those moments people referenced for years, one of those interviews replayed, dissected, analyzed. A turning point. A warning. A lesson. All because a host forgot that her job was to make her guests feel welcome, not to tear them down. All because someone chose ego over empathy, ratings over respect, controversy over kindness. Julie Walters had walked off the Lorraine Kelly show, but in doing so, she had won the respect of everyone watching. She had shown what it looks like to stand up for yourself with grace and dignity. She had proven that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone else's game. The morning had started like any other episode, but it had ended in a way no one could have predicted. And as Julie stepped out of the building and into the fresh air, it felt lighter, freer, free from the toxic atmosphere of that studio. Free from the pressure to appease someone who had no intention of meeting her halfway. Free to continue her career on her own terms without compromising her values or her dignity. Behind her, the building still buzzed with frantic energy. Crisis meetings were already forming in cramped offices. Damage control strategies were being whispered in hallways. But Julie didn't look back. She had said what needed to be said. She had done what needed to be done. And now she was moving forward. Because that's what you do when someone tries to make you smaller. You stand tall. You speak your truth. And you walk away knowing you maintained your integrity, even when silence might have been easier. Julie Walters had come to talk about her film. Instead, She had given everyone watching a masterclass in how to handle a bully knot with equal aggression, but with calm strength. Not by descending to their level, but by refusing to engage in their toxicity. She had walked off the show, but in reality, she had walked into legend. This would be the interview people remembered, not because of anything promotional, but because it was the morning a beloved actress said, "Enough is enough," and chose self-respect over submission. And all across the country in living rooms, break rooms, offices, cafes, people were talking. They were debating Lorraine's behavior, Julie's response, and what it all meant. They were choosing sides, and overwhelmingly, they were choosing Julie because at the end of the day, people recognize authenticity. They recognize when someone is being real. And they recognize when someone is being cruel just to be cruel. They recognize grace under pressure. They recognize dignity in the face of disrespect. Julie Walters had all of those things. And on that morning in that studio, she had shown them all to the world. The interview that was supposed to promote a film had revealed something far more important, something about character, about standing up for yourself, about knowing when to walk away. It had shown that true strength isn't about domination or careless power. True strength is holding on to your values even as someone tries to knock them loose. As Julie slid into her car and started the engine, she let out a slow breath. Part of her was still stunned by the hostility she'd faced, but the part of her that had weathered decades in a brutal industry, that part was proud. She hadn't yelled. She hadn't insulted anyone. She hadn't lowered herself. She had simply drawn a boundary, named the wrongdoing, and walked away. Sometimes that's all you can do. Sometimes that's exactly what you should do. The morning sun climbed higher, washing the street in gold. Somewhere, people were going about their ordinary lives, unaware of the cultural earthquake that had just happened live on television. But the ones who had watched knew. They had seen something real, something raw, something honest. They had seen someone value themselves enough to step away from mistreatment. And they had seen Julie Walters deliver perhaps her most unforgettable performance, not by playing a character, but by being wholly, unshakably herself, standing firm, speaking truth, and walking away with her head held high.